Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
everybody.
We are live. Okay.
Hi, people.
Let me introduce three wonderful people. First of all, ladies first. So Melissa Teoh, production manager, production designer, producer, everything. And then we have Chong, our specialist in projections. And of course, our Tak Ip, our production stage manager. Thank you for being with us. Want to be so formal or not? Okay. Anyway, maybe we start with I say hello to all these people, all the friends who are joining us. Anyway, I think they would like to know how you get started in this industry. Why this industry? So who wants to go first? Maybe ladies first, lah. Melissa. Yeah, how? Why chose this industry?
I think I'm going to be arrowed all night, right? If we are going to go with ladies first. Yeah. Well, to be honest, I never thought about going into the arts when I was younger. I was first exposed to my first stage production or stage show when I was 17 after SPM. I had come to Singapore with my cousin, and she took me to see Cats. And that was the first time I experienced a theater, live performance. And then I thought, oh, wow, this is really interesting. And then I started, doing some research on what performing arts was. So I guess that's how I started to have an interest in theater. And then, of course, after that, I went off to America to study theater in directing and production.
Why America?
Okay. Well, because at the time I thought if I decide that I want to sort of switch to film, then America would be a good way, because a good place to be, because then you could sort of branch out to other forms, right? So that's why America was the choice. I did my A levels, and actually thought that I was going to end up in the UK with all my friends. But then I made a detour and ended up in the States for 10 years, actually.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Doug? How did you get into this industry? And for how many years?
I think no. I mean, a lot of people doesn't believe that because I started in account actually when I was in high school, and then I started to venture into a company that I do account and into artist management, like a big corporation. And then from there onwards, then I started to know a few good friends in the entertainment industry, and then they started to ask me like, oh, why don't we set up our own event companies and do something? Which is TP. TP is the one who actually brought me into events and entertainment. And then after that, suddenly, like we have a good friend. They actually want to do their first musical theater, and then they said, okay, they actually want to look for a stage manager. And at the point of time, I don't have any experience at all. Like, didn't know what a stage manager should do.
Wait,
and then
so you don't even have to be a crew before this. So you straight away stage manager. Wow, so
yes,
pandai, huh? So
straight away into theater management. I mean, musical theater management as a stage manager. And that time, then that's the first time I knew Melissa. Yeah. So then Melissa was my guidance and my mentor. And then then I started to venture on that. And then I think after one or two production, then my next production is in Istana Budaya already. Then it was like, wow, that's like international theater in Malaysia, and my first ever to step into IB. And then from there onward, then of course I built my passions and my interest in here. Then started to study on my own, more on practical experience like that. And the funniest thing is after that, then only I know that we can actually study stage management in university. And I didn't know there's this kind of course in the university before. Yeah. So that's how I ventured into theater. Yeah.
Yeah, later we will ask Melissa to share, the study, the program in the US and also in Malaysia. Okay, but before that, Chong, so tell us your story. Yeah, how do you get into this industry?
I started off part-time in 1995 after my secondary school. So this company, they do a lot of mobile disco, dinner and dance, and karaoke system.
Wow, disco, huh? Disco.
Yeah, mobile disco for annual dinner. Those days were the things, it's quite happening. Then after that, slowly I ventured into video. I mean, sound, lights, then video. Then I found that video is quite interesting. There's a lot of things to do. And I started video in 2005, and I hook on till now. Yeah.
Yeah. Video is something that, nowadays, in the theater industry, actually, yeah, we never thought. Last time is, of course, it's all set, all these props and sets. But this past few years, video mapping, or all these are very important. So later you can share with us, the development, and the trend. Okay, so back to just now the education side, where we can actually study stage management, production management. So Melissa, the people here, the young people here, do they get to study that in Malaysia, or there's no such thing in Malaysia? You have to go overseas.
Well, I think there have been increasingly more educational institutions that have performing arts degrees, diplomas and degrees in Malaysia, especially in the last 5 years. And of course, Taylor's has just started their own as well with the Actors Studio. So there are options to study theatre production in Malaysia now. But I went in the 90s, and the year I went was 1997, where we had that big economy, crisis. And, for a Chinese parent to say yes, to his daughter going to America to study theatre in the 90s was pretty unheard of, actually. And at that time, I think there were very limited institutions that offered these courses in Malaysia. That's why I chose to go abroad.
Okay. So, so we get into a bit of productions, since, then people also don't want to keep hearing us talking. We want to see action, right? Okay, 4 of us, the recent production that we work in is 2018. Is a Madison Buddha. So that was the one who helped us to draw the stage. Later, maybe that can show us. And then that one is a pretty challenging production, actually. I'm the producer and director, but Melissa is a production manager, which is not easy because she has to team everything once we get into the, not even before that, set and things like that. Yeah, we can see a bit. So Melissa, maybe you can share with us, how challenging and is this production. And then later, Chong, talk about a bit of it's also quite rare in a theater production where we use so many projectors. So who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll go first because ladies first, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I think it was challenging because number one, the venue itself was not really equipped, really for that kind of production. When we went to Recce, I remember we just went, oh my God, all these things we have to bring, all the things we have to prep, and within a very short frame of time, as always. We also, and of course, dream big, right? Lin Huay's show is always big. They're starting small. Small, we will eventually expand. So we had a rotating stage. Not only that, we had a tilting platform built within that rotating stage. And then we have all these smoke machines, haze machines, any kind of machine placed underneath the stage. And so there will be all these pockets of holes where we have to crawl in, to troubleshoot, to fix things. So it was, so there were a lot of things to prep. Not only that, but also prepping of the venue, working with a budget. And then you have about 45 to 50 people who are on stage at any one time. So making sure the stage was safe as well. And then let's not get into, the story about how we didn't have aircon for an entire day. I think that's a for Lin Huay, to share with us. But you can see people are crawling inside, and we have drums, we have, props and sets, and just a lot of traffic. And so just managing that was really quite interesting. I mean, we also, I remember this very clearly. I became the person who labeled chairs and to as well. So it was quite interesting.
No, but you have to babysit. You have to babysit some students, right? So
yes. But thank goodness for student volunteers as well, right? I mean, they were great. And then of course we have the SM team and the crew who just came in all their good morning towels around their necks or heads or whatever, because we're sweating the whole day just trying to put this just trying to get through this setup.
So this is the drawing by Tak. And Tak, I think it's quite amazing. I think he learned all these drawing skill on his own, right? You don't go there. You didn't go to any course. Or I think this is, and then people also actually now a lot of people ask to learn from you, right? So is it easy? All this drawing on?
Actually, it's the thing like it's the same thing like in the school where if you have interest in certain things, right, it's easy for you to learn, because I learned all this just from YouTube. And Chong know also because recently I also conducted like a very basic SketchUp, short, basic how we actually wanted to use the SketchUp.
So it's SketchUp, is it? The program is called SketchUp, is it?
Yeah.
So it's easy to learn, is it? So that for people who like to venture into it, so it's SketchUp.
Actually easy to learn. I think easier than AutoCAD. Which and of course you don't have to download you have to get the software, which is kind of free and easy to use, I would say. Yeah. So I think besides being a SM, right, so this is what I have learned, because I like it because it's on skills, and we can actually have a you can actually visualize through the drawings, because everything when you draw is all on skill and on measurements.
Yeah, I remember last time, long time ago, all the drawing of sets and or stage is like really hand drawn. So yeah, then you have to use the what they call the paper with all the square thing.
All the Greek paper.
Right. So So but nowadays with computer is so easy. Okay, back to Chong. Projection or projectors used for Medicine Buddha just now, that production. Can you share a bit with us?
Okay, we use total 8 projector on the white cloth, all right, and then 2 on the floor. All right, we wanted to use 1 projector for the floor, but because of the height, and there's a bar hanging from the top of the ceiling, the in-house one, we can't remove it, so we decided to use 2 projector to be flown high enough to make 1 image at the center stage. That is quite challenging because we need to blend and map the circle and blend 2 images to make it one image. So it's quite a challenge. Yeah, and then because of the height and the lightings all around, so we need to discuss with lightings whether is it in their way or whether is the lighting bar in our way. Yeah. But the floor one is easy. The floor one, the 3 per side and the 2 one is okay. But yeah, this one. So it's quite a challenge because once the temperature change in the hall, the image, it will affect the image. It will affect the blending. Yeah. So every time.
I know the temperature makes a difference. Temperature.
Yeah. If it's hot, yeah. If it's hot, if it's too hot, then the span sets will extend. Then hence the image will be offset. So every time you have to realign back, touch up a bit of the image. If not, it will overlap too much. People can see the brighter side of the image, the blending. Yeah.
Okay. So the setting up, I think like Melissa was saying, the time frame was quite tight. So any difficulties or any fun things or any interesting happened during that, except for that one day, no aircon. I think that's very memorable. I mean, so, other than that, any other stories that you can share behind the scene with your crew? We have fantastic crews from from Melissa. So, and they're all girls, I remember. So nowadays, a lot of crews are girls power, and then very strong. They are very strong. They carry things, they run around. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say we really work with a very solid team, and the team that I frequently work with. I mean, of course, there are some that we work on and off. Oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. I've just put in some old photos. Whoever is spotting yourself, I'm sorry. I've got limited photos with me because I'm currently in Singapore, not in KL. But yeah, and they do everything from sets to props to costumes to miking up people to like painting to I mean everything, you name it, and they'll. Yeah, I think we can just roll yeah. This one was of us. Which show was this?
In Beijing, I think it's in Beijing.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I see Joanne, because we keep telling ourselves we must remember to share that story of Joanne.
Yes.
So before we forget, maybe we should share that story. Okay, it's also part of the to let people see how not challenging, but how interesting the work behind the scene, because anything can happen, right? So you have to, in Cantonese we say have to zap sang. So really zap sang gao gao, in Malaysia saying So Melissa, maybe you can share that story. It's so funny and then but it's so good. It's so well well executed. Okay. Yeah.
So what happened in Taiwan was we toured Princess Wenchen to Taiwan, right? And the Taiwan venue, the Sun Yat-sen Memorial Hall, the fly system is really not suited for a musical, okay? Because you cannot program it to stop at a certain point, okay, like any other fly system. So what happened was I was the production stage manager, so I was calling the show. My assistant, who was Jonan, was operating the fly, and it's these knobs, right, on the wall that he just have to like press, start, stop. So what I had to do was, so since we can't program it, we had to tie ropes to the fly bars. And then at the end of the rope, we had a washer with glow tape on it. So that in the dark, I'm running up and down backstage, right? Like a cockroach, looking for these fly bars and where the washer will drop. So the minute it drops to a certain point before it hits the ground, I have to give him the stop cue and say, okay, stop. And then he will stop the fly. So that's how it works. And some days when we're unlucky, the washer and the rope will drop between sets. Then that means I cannot see. All right. So one day, I called a fly cue for the palace pillars, right? Because the palace pillars were broken up into 2 pieces because the theater did not have room for us to fly out the entire piece. So we had to chop the palace pillars into 2. And one to be brought out by a ground crew, and then the other would fly in. So it's got to sort of be pieced together like jigsaw puzzle. Well, that particular night, the fly came in just a little bit too much. So my dear head of stage right or left, I think Joanne, stage right, I think or left maybe. She was supposed to place that pillar right together with the one that's flying in.
This is Joanne.
This is Joanne, by the way. So this is a different production. It wasn't like this, right? So the half the pillar came in, but it overshot by a bit. And there was Joanne holding the bottom half, trying to match it. And then what happened was she put it in place, and then suddenly, as she was exiting, she saw that it was, not straight, and it started to like lean backwards, right? So she rushed out, and then she grabbed the pillar, and guess what? The lights came up.
The lights on, and she's on stage.
She's on stage, holding the pillar like that. And then slowly, you begin to see how her fingers just started to retract.
From
the audience might be able to see her fingers. Yes. So
I didn't choose to show the people the things that she's holding is actually the scene of.
Can you imagine Joanne hiding? Yeah, can you imagine Joanne hiding behind one of the pillars while the whole scene was being played out? So it was like I say, amazing crew. That's why I say what you see on stage actually is a lot of hard work from the behind the scene people, the crew. All these you see all these setting up. So so actually there are many stories. So maybe we start with Melissa. Melissa have been in this business many years. So maybe Melissa, you can start your journey. Tell us a bit of your journey. How the first production until those that, so maybe we can start to see Melissa Folder back maybe from the beginning, from her first. So okay, for one, why makes you want to come back to Malaysia? I believe you have worked you were working in US, right? You worked in a theater and you had a good job. So, but why decided to come back to Malaysia where nothing is easy, So
I think we chose a path in the arts. I think we have sort of succumbed to the idea that nothing is going to be easy, right? But I think so I left to come back because I guess I never had the intention to sort of stay in the States, like, for the rest of my life. And I remember it took me 2 years to make that decision. And then my dad finally told me, well, if you want to come back, then it's better to do it sooner than later. So after 2 years of deliberating, I decided, okay, I'm just going to go home to Malaysia and see what I can do. But, I had no history in theater in Malaysia at all. I didn't know anybody. So when I came back, for the first 6 months, I thought to myself, okay, maybe I can't do theater here because I don't even know how to get into it at that point. I don't know anybody, don't know anything. So maybe I have to think about something else. And then also, I want to share this very, very, very quick story. My second or third year at university, I wrote to several Malaysian theater companies and said, I'm studying theater, and I would like to come back and, work for free, is there anything I can do? Yeah.
Okay.
Right. But only one responded, and that was Gardner and Wife. And at that time, they didn't have any productions because they were based in Singapore. So I said, okay, never mind. And so, I thought, okay, doomsday, I'm going to go home and I'm not going to have a job and I have to start all over again. But then a neighbor of mine introduced me to a friend of hers who worked with Dharma Orchestra, now Dharma Asia Productions. And that's how I started, actually. My first show was with them, with Kalun and Sing Chu. And that was very memorable because I think a lot of us in this picture that you see remains very good friends up to today. And this was in 2007, I believe. So that's 13 years ago. We took the show to Perth, actually. So that was my first touring production as well, that we played at His Majesty's Theatre. So that was very interesting. And I think for, younger SM who just came back, to embark on the show that then went on tour. So that was a learning curve for me as well at that point. So this is one of the setup there. So I think, and we've, sort of continued working together over the years. This was my crew that I brought from Malaysia. We have the lighting designer there as well, and the sound engineer 1 year as well. So just unloading our stuffs. And there was a very cute story with this. One Australian technician could hold an entire set up on his own, and then the next thing you knew, you turn around and we had like 2 or 3 of us smaller size, Asians doing one thing, So it was really funny, when we watched them work. But we had a great time there. The guy at the back is the technical manager at the theater, really, really great guy. So those were my days as SM. I don't SM anymore. This was a crew cast briefing. there. And this was the original team in 2006, and this was in KLPAC. So that time, still very young, can see the jawline and everything. It's been 14 years.
Okay.
So this was the second show we brought there, which is I Have a Date with Spring, which is a Cantonese musical.
Okay, move on. We still have many to share. Maybe I have to play the photo. Next.
I'll try to do this in a couple of minutes, right? So I think the next one was AMP, right? So AMP marked my first show at Istana Budaya, and that was Siddhartha. So that again was a huge learning curve for to me. And when people always ask me this, right? What's the difference between working abroad and working in Malaysia? And always have I can go on forever because I teach also, right? So I'm used to talking to students about all these things. But AMP has a very special story because it was the first time where I experienced cast being responsible and being in charge of your own costumes. So I went to rehearsal, and then everybody had a Toyogo box, and all their costumes, individual costumes, accessories were in that box. And then I found out that, they are all, sort of in charge of their own things, and they will pack them, they will unpack them, and we get to the theater, And I was like, huh? Really? Right? And then not only that, Adrian Tay was my ASM at that point, right? And at the end of the first rehearsal, I remember in this shop lot in Puchong, right? At the end of rehearsal, we were, gearing up to, sort of get ready to leave for the day and, to clean up and all that. And suddenly I see some cars going around, sweeping the floor, wiping this, wiping that. I'm going, what's going on? And they're like, oh, that's a duty. I'm like, huh? Okay. Cultures work with some companies that obviously sometimes it's not the norm, but it works. And I always say with AMP cast, I never have to worry about them because they're so responsible. Yeah. So AMP then, so going on to the bigger venues like Istana Budaya, and all that, which then, of course, and I did several other shows there like Xuan Zhang with, Wei Han and Queen, and then P. Ramlee with Infinity. So this is a picture that I'm showing because, so I worked on P. Ramlee, the musical, and that's, Pat Ibrahim, his choreo. So what's interesting about this is that this is a huge musical number in the show, and we had to basically rent a studio to simulate, and to try out the choreo before we even get to the theater. And so for me, the luxury, I guess, of being able to do that, as you can see, the set's also very big. So it was a huge production in that sense. These are just a few photos to show you sort of the scale of it. And this was sort of the opening number picture still. So going on to shows like that, and with each shows comes different technical needs, right? So we also play around with the stage lifts a lot. I won't talk about how when it gets stuck and what happens, right? Because there's a sensor, and the minute you go near it, if you touch it, it takes 30 minutes or so for it to restart, the system. So what do? You tell your audience, oh, sorry, hold on, bring the curtain in, wait for 30 minutes. So a lot of things, right, that has happened.
So Melissa, can I ask one question? Okay, for example, now like you say, so many production team, so many people are trying to help, the director vision, the creativity or whatever to put on stage. But from your experience, I'm because as a production manager and Atak also, you have to join all these pre-production meetings, from audition, to the end. So basically, how often does it, throughout the process or the journey that things change, or mostly stick to that, since the day one, the director wants something like this, then she or he will get something like this, or it's always evolving? And what was your experience in that, Tak and Melissa?
Should I be completely honest?
Yeah.
Well, our live session will be recorded, by the way.
I'm aware of that, so I have to tell myself twice. Well, it's always changing. Always.
Right? I think it's a good thing. But it's a good thing. It's a process. Yeah.
Yes. So there are different layers of this, right? because I think changes that obviously is going to enhance the show is great, because and we always do that. And the thing with being in a management position is this: you also want to try to allow the creatives room to play, to experiment, and to do all that, right? Because there's some things you have to try, it's trial and error. You have to try it out, and it doesn't work, then we change and all that. Yeah. So in that respect, yes. I mean, I think that's a good move. And of course, there's always the other side where it's just, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think my experience was because in Malaysia, our setup or technical tech run and all this is very short. Mm-hmm. So I remember Kita, even Siddhartha, all this actually very complicated, quite complicated. Princess mentioned, but actually we only had 4 days. I mean, that's very impossible, right? I mean, because in overseas for production, they might have 2-3 weeks to do the tech run, to run everything. How crazy was that we only have 4 days for such big production?
Actually, in comparison to some of the shows in Singapore, it's similar. Like I've done musicals in Singapore where I had flying. I remember like Cinderella with Wild Rice and all that. And we usually bump in on a Monday and we open on a Friday, and that was at Esplanade. We had pyro, we had flying, was full-fledged. So I think it really depends. With certain shows that are more technical, yes, you definitely need a longer time. Also, I think there's also a difference, right, between working at sometimes venues here and venues abroad. Depending also on the kind of support that you get, what's available, like how quickly response is, or that like troubleshooting and things like that, right? So there are many factors that contribute to this, whether a show can tech in 5 days or can be set up and tech in 5 days or not. So I've seen where it works and I've seen where it doesn't work, and I think we need to look at what are the different contributing factors. But I do agree in a sense that the more complicated shows usually in Malaysia don't get enough time.
Yeah. What about Chong? I mean, to set up a projector screen and LED, for concert, things like that, do you have enough time, or most of the time you don't have enough time?
Most of the time is very tight. It's very, very tight. Yeah, because sometimes that the venue will promise the client, okay, I will give you this venue. Yeah, but then last minute they'll sell the venue. Then we have to move in midnight. So if the show is the next day at night, then we have to rehearse in the morning. Then we rehearse until afternoon, evening. Then we go for the show. So it's very tiring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
so maybe you can share. Yeah. Sorry.
Then sometimes if it's a conference in the morning, then we move in midnight. We really don't need to sleep anymore. We just straight away set up, rehearse maybe 1-2 hours. Then we run the show from morning until evening for the conference. So yeah, sometimes the venue does make a lot of difference. The cooperation from them. So.
Can you share? I mean, what we see on screen now? I mean, is this your
so-called my office. My daily office, all right? So these are the display I'm going to see, because this one is set up at the backstage, this other one, so a lot of monitors, and these are the laptops, and the laptops and controller is always around me. Yeah, so we have to really, really attentive and be alert on the events and yeah. So this is what I always every day. What I see, during my events.
So many monitors. How do you concentrate? Which one to look at?
We just get used to it, lah. We just get used to it. Yeah. So that's why we have rehearsal and rehearsal again. Yeah. This one is operated by three different persons. Yeah. It's a Australian production. So this is my station, and then the other 2 stations is managed by the Australians. So it's kind of a teamwork also, lah.
Wow, 4 computers, huh?
Yeah, four computers, 4 iMacs, so for different purposes, for PowerPoints and for backgrounds. Yeah.
Yeah. So any interesting productions that you want to share with us before we go back to Melissa? Melissa still have many productions to share. So, but we go to Chong. Any productions to share, something interesting or in your career? Those that you have worked with.
Maybe. One of the event back, I think 8 years back, Volkswagen launch. Yeah, it's by the foreign production.
Why is it interesting?
because it involved 5 projectors. Back in those days, like 8 years ago, 20,000 NC lumen is quite a huge projector. Yeah, and that particular projectionist doesn't want any tuning on the projector. Yeah, this one Volkswagen. There's no keystone, nothing. Even if you adjust 1 or 2%, he will know. He will know. So we have to go and reset and align again. And it's very, very. He wants perfect. He's a perfectionist. Yeah. So
Yeah,
these 5 projectors, sending out 5 different signals.
So it's very detailed, your job
It's
is
very detailed, yeah. This one is the ASEAN Summit. It's for the national government, our Malaysian government. 5 years ago, I think 20, yeah. They hosted the ASEAN Summit. So this is one of the longest LED setup that time. I think it's about 100 or 120 meters. Yeah, it's a 3-sided LED. And this one is one of my setup in stadium. This is my first time to set up in stadium that I handle this LEDs panel. So I have to coordinate with the client and the supplier. Usually I go into stadium just to operate, but this time I have to oversee the whole setup of the panels and have to figure out like how high they want, how big the image they want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you, Chong, because like you say LED projections are used in corporate show events, and so are you surprised or that this recent years a lot of theater production they are using? We are using a lot of video mapping or just as backdrop and things like that. So why do you think that is? The trend. Why is that now? So many people are using this in the theater.
You mean LED?
LED and projection. Yeah, projection. Yeah. This is also many years ago, 6 years ago.
Probably they can bring out more stories and
more variety, right? Because
more varieties, yeah. So this one is your production, yeah. So you can have mapping, then you can see it fill up more on the scene.
Okay, I must say this production designed by Melissa Teoh. So also and stage managed by Atak. So I think another production that all of us are involved.
Yeah.
All of us in this on the screen now is those that we involved. Okay, so yeah, Atak. Okay, now all this you also involved as this is maybe can have Achong talk a bit. This is mapping, right?
This is totally mapping. Yeah, Xuan Zhang, one of Rehan's production back in Istana Budaya. Yeah, so all these trees and all these walls are created by projection, and all these the Buddha or whatever. Yeah, those are called projection mapping. So we have map exactly the image on that particular material. It takes quite a lot of time. This is Department of Justice in Putrajaya.
Right.
I didn't do this event, but this projection mapping that done by one of my vendor, another supplier. Yeah, so it's a yearly affair called Lampu. So basically they have to map all the images on that building. Yeah, so they have to draw out the line, and it's quite complicated.
Yeah, but interesting. Melissa also has worked with all these the outdoor events, right? Some of the outdoor event. So outdoor event is very different from indoor event, right? Because looking at the photo, so maybe you guys can share a bit of your experience working outdoor versus theater. Is actually I also always feel theater is very comfortable, with the aircon and everything. But except for stadium lah, okay. Theater, when I say theater, is like theater, right? So, can you share a bit of experience of working for outdoor event? I'm sure all 3 of you have worked at an outdoor event before.
Okay, I think I can share about 2 houses. Show I did in Penang, part of Georgetown Festival. And then there'll be another one later on Chitrawana, which I recently did 2 years ago. So 2 houses was a show put up by Tan Keng Hua. Written and directed by Lim Yu Bing. So this was sort of like my first experience working. It's a very site-specific production right, where we transform and use. So this is Sunstead Mansion, okay, which was our sort of play area. So the entire play took place around within the compounds of Sunstead Mansion. Now, when we went there, it was completely empty inside. So whatever you see now are things that we had to put in. So we had to print, frame, hang, cushions, do prop shopping. We had to put in lighting. So Matt Chan was the lighting designer. And we decided that we would go with practical lighting because you don't want theater lighting, right? It's a very natural, sort of setting. So Joyce was my assistant production manager at the time, and we have a very interesting process because we all went up to Penang, I think 2-3 weeks, or maybe even longer before the show, and we had to really slowly transform this space, right? You talk about like air conditioning, you talk about putting in lighting, wiring, you talk about landscaping. We had to bring in like trees, we had to clear out the stuff that's at the back, where it's facing the ocean, so that when we have a scene there, it's pleasing to the eye. A lot of things. So rehearsals would take place from 7 o'clock onwards at night, because the show is at night. So you want to make sure that you have the right sort of ambiance, in terms of like lighting, what sounds to expect at a time, things like that. So they were rehearsed from 7 to about 2 a.m., maybe between 2 to 3 a.m. And Joyce's and my duty at the end of the night ends at 11 p.m. when we bring them supper. So that's our duty, right? The last thing we do at night. Then what we do is we wait for the rehearsal report so that we know what we have to do in the morning. So the production team works separately from the SM team. So the next morning we'll go and say, okay, we need to do all these things and we need the house, so nobody is there. So we do all the fix-ups and prep and all that kind of stuff. And then later we hand over the space to them and they continue at night. So this went on for about 2 weeks or so, I think. So what was interesting, about this was also the fact that we have scenes like outdoors and indoors. Then you have noise. The mansion is placed along a main road. So how do you deal with all those things, right? The switching on and off of lights for, different spaces. And then when it rains, which it did, by the way, on a show day, what you do? And then hiring an umbrella, to manage traffic, to, all that kind of stuff. So it's a whole different set of, I guess, process, for something that's outdoor. A lot more to think about, I think. Yeah. And actually, you sort of depend a lot more on things you cannot control, right? Like weather, right? Noise, power cuts, things like that, which you don't know. It might just happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's one of it. And the next one, then, subsequently we did a couple more, like, what's that? With Kick Theatre, we did festival, Night Fest. In Singapore, and we did outside at the park opposite of a cafe. So that was very interesting as well. And then the most recent one I would say would be Chichawana. And I think, as you all know, Chichawana is something that's put on by the Ministry of Tourism every year. So for this particular one, I brought a team of stage. So basically, it was a team of stage managers, it was SM team. So this team had to manage, I think it was like close to, I don't know, was it like 700-800 performers, maybe?
Wow.
So this was our rehearsal at the Padang. And this was after having 2 weeks rehearsal in a very big hall. This is their briefing at the end of the night. Joyce was our head SM there, and you can see the rest of the crew. And then with the backdrop of basically, Dataran Merdeka, where the event was going to be held. Now, this particular one is very interesting because, so there's a row of basically Grab taxis, right, so to speak, here. Well, the idea was that we'll open the show with a number sort of like, that movie La La Land, where everybody was singing. So we had to do this number, right? So imagine you had to control traffic, you have to control cars, you have to cue the cars, you have to, be aware of the performers. Then you have the people going up and down, the trucks and all that. So it's safety, right? So when you talk about safety, then it's insurance, and it's just so many things, right? And so this is why it gets tough doing this in Malaysia, because for an event like this, and for a number like this, you would think that we would need X amount of, rehearsal hours. Well, I think we only had really 2 to 3 sessions, and that was it. So in comparison to like, my friends who are working on NDP in Singapore, and they're like, every Saturday or Sunday, for weeks, to get the space, to sort of rehearse, we got like a couple of days, and that was it. So it's really quite taxing, and I think the team just did not sleep for 2 weeks, or if not more. Yeah, and so this was just us, having fun on the, I don't know, was it the day off? And we thought, okay, we'll take a team picture in all these trishaws, right? So you name it, there were trishaws, there were cars, there were trucks, there were, just everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the heat, of course, you're dealing with heat if you're, if you're an outdoor show. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, actually. So yeah, okay. Back to we haven't talked about his experience. He has some interesting experience in fun stories to share also, right? Yeah, maybe share a bit of your journey. I think should be.
I think for my part it's very fortunate that actually I got a group of very close friends, because from theater, then we meet as like for example, Lin Huay is my director and Melissa is our production manager, mentor. Yeah, and then working with, constantly working with Joanne, like being crew, ASM, like that, and she's a very good prop master as well. So all these people that we are actually working with, which is like from comrades, then we become a very close friends, and sometimes we host some gathering and gather together. But I think the most memorable for me one is like I have a shave board, because I have to become the monk while being a crew on stage in Taiwan. This is me and Hong. Wow, I think that's like my first time in my life that I have to shave board, and of course I always wanted to shave it, but you just feel like there's no specific reason. And then when I think Lin Huay and Su Fen Lao actually asked me like, since you are the crew and we sort of
special
ensemble,
guest.
special guest. Yeah, why don't you try it out? I said, why not, like that. And that's me being a crew like that. And then the most enjoyable part is actually working with a group of very good friends and crew like that. Even though most of the time, like even though I'm the stage manager, right? So they will actually share their thoughts and their ideas. It's not like some other people, like they don't dare to actually speak to the SM or whatever that the SM say, and they will just like, oh yes, SM, then they just do like going back to their own stage left or stage right. But the group of people that I actually work with, they're actually quite good. So we actually communicate both ways instead of just like the SM giving orders like that. That's me.
Yeah. I also find it very interesting because, as a director, we concentrate on the overall, but always, at the side, I can see the SM and the crew. They are rehearsing their own. Okay, we are rehearsing the cast on stage, right? But actually, the SM is rehearsing the crew, which I think very interesting. Maybe you guys should share a bit, because it's a lot of work. Also, they are choreographing. Also, there's a way, the movement and things like that. Like Malaysia, is choreography. Okay. This one we stop a bit This one, okay. I always want to thank Chong, because he always so nice. Every time before show, he would type something so we call it and then give us
it's like a spiritual support, especially on when we have the very bad bumming day and then set up, and then until the first show or the last show of this was in Korean. You see, Chong even wrote in Korean, in Bahasa, even in English also, like that.
Yeah. So we go back to choreographing the crew. Can Tak and Melissa share a bit? Actually, what kind of how do you guys I can see the drawing and things like that. So how does it work? The SM and the crew.
So usually for some shows where there's a model, then I will use the model to pre-prep. So what you really want to do is look at the show and the set and actually come up with a scene shift plan before you go into the theater. Because by the time you hit the full runs in rehearsal, which you should, hopefully with costumes too, then you should have an idea of how these shifts are going to happen so that you can time it. So where there's a model, we will like to play with the model, but we know that going to the theater, things will change, definitely change, right? So that's fine. Which actually brings me to a story about, the problem we had in Xi'an, right?
What problem already? I can't share. I forgot.
So maybe I'll share this very quickly. We went to CR and we asked, and I specifically asked for 15 stage crew because the sets were so big and they all had to move at the same time. And so what happened on the day was when we arrived, I asked, so where are these crew? Because I'm going to park them with the ASMs so that they can train the crew, right? While we're setting up. Then they told me, oh yeah, these are the crew and they're all between like 50 to 65 years old. And then I just went, huh? Our sets will kind of roll them over and they probably can't see in the dark. So I said, please change and, the crew. Well, it took them 2.5 days. So by the time they came back to us on like late Wednesday or Thursday, and Thursday is our dress rehearsal. Friday, we opened the show. The coordinator came to me and said, okay, I brought you new crew, right? So I said, okay, cool. And so I saw this group of people walking down the aisle, the theater, and I went, okay, so how old are they? and then he went, oh, they're all 18, they're all 18. I said, are you sure? Because they look like they're 13 or 14. And then they said, oh, but
30 years old though.
Because they are Kung Fu students. I said, I don't need Kung Fu students. I just need crew who can. We ended up running the show with, I think, 8 Kung Fu students, right? From who had no idea about theater. They didn't know how to behave. They were having fun. They were tumbling. They were doing all sorts of things backstage. It was hilarious, right?
They were playing with the set and props as well. And I remember there's one time Joanne had to scold them because they actually sit at the audience seat. And Joanne was actually going everywhere to look for them. And then they saw them at the audience seat. And then Joanne was scolding them, 你们过来! And Joanne don't speak Mandarin, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's why all the when you work, like you say, work in different venues, you will have different challenges. So let's say because we tour China and then of course Busan, for example. So I think Busan's crew, our impression is very quiet. The whole theater is so quiet. So so different culture. Like I said, that's something that is that we experience. So touring is fun in that way. So but in Malaysia, I feel one thing just now Atta was saying, I think it's very warm. I think the cast and crew, like, I don't know. Of course, maybe for some people it's not very good way because they feel not so professional. You guys like friends, So why you like so family run like that? But I think actually that's also the special thing about Malaysian theater. So in a way, for me I feel. So I don't know what about you guys. Yeah.
But I think having said that, I think we have formed many very close ties and bonds, I think, to people that we work with. But I think on at the same time, we are able to draw a line. I mean, if you are late, then you're going to call out for being late. If you don't know your work, then you're going to be called out for not knowing your lines. I think we are able to do that. And I think that's why we are able to sustain the relationship, the working relationship, as well as, our personal relationship.
Yeah. So Atta, any more stories to share? All this makan. So this is the fun part, right? After a whole day of hectic work and everything. So at night, you guys always go for supper, right? Most of you, the crew.
Oh,
yeah, especially the Yang Rou Chuan. Remember the Yang Rou Chuan?
That was a nightly thingy. Must go.
Yeah. So. But okay, Melissa, you have just now Melissa only shared a few. Then movies. Maybe nowadays you venture into movies production. So of course it's very different from theater, but also similar. So can you share about the working in theater and film?
So it's very I get lucky to be working on a movie with some friends of mine, Glenn Gui and Gavin Yap. And that was the first movie that I worked on in Malaysia. And I think it was a great project to start out with. Not only was it, filming, but we were filming a ghost, a vampire story, Pontianak, right? So imagine all the different things that we had to do. But anyway, okay, so look at this picture. That's part of the crew only, just for that night. So it didn't even, we didn't even get everybody in this picture, but, you're looking at managing this whole team of people here and more. And the house at the background, right, is something we built from scratch. So we found this kampong area that had 2 houses already, but we needed a third so that we can film in a third one, right? and do whatever we want with it. So we built this house from scratch. It was designed, built, and decked out to be, a kampong house in the 60s, basically. So that was already a very interesting thing. Also, when you work in films, obviously, every minute that passes, you're sort of burning money in that sense. I mean, in theater, it's also the same. I mean, we really look at budgets very closely, and we, try to play with figures all the time. But in film, it's a whole different ball game. And every little bit of thing, it costs money, it costs time, it costs manpower. This is a trial run of, for example, we had flying scenes because, we had Pontianak that can fly, right? So we need a stunt team. We rehearse first at the studio, and then we had to rehearse again, on site before doing it, with the actors, so that, they are safe. So at any one time, there were so many things happening. I mean, we can be shooting at one location, and then, I got a great story for this, we can be shooting at one location, and then half the team is preparing the next location at the same time. So how do you split yourself, right? In terms of like where your eyes are, watching, and where you have to be when. So this film was shot completely on location. We did not use a studio at all. So the problem with shooting in January is what? We get rain, right? So what's going to happen with your Conti? So there were nights, when after we wrap up, right, it rains, and we go like, oh shoot. So the next day we go back, and my team, and even myself, we have to pick up the chankol and literally like cover these wet areas with gravel and things like that. You just get your hands dirty, and that's what it is, right? I mean, if you really want to do it, you're into this, then you're just gonna do it. That's what it is. And this is just like one of the very few things, that happen. And also, the time factor, you have to shoot a scene, by this time. There were a lot of night scenes. We shot overnight for many, many scenes. So your whole schedule basically, changes, right? You go home at 8 or 9 in the morning, and then by 4 or 5 o'clock, you're on location again. And not forgetting that there's some work that needs to be done during the day as well, because you're dealing with suppliers and people who do not work at night. So there's a lot of time management, people management, finance. We even had an accountant who was on site with us for the entire project, because every day she would have to tally up expenses. That was how complicated it could get.
Yeah. So basically, so when you're so used to, like for us, used to theater, so filmmaking, film production is another thing, huh? So you have to really like the heat, the sound, everything. Okay. Before we end, it's 58 minutes. So just talk a bit about this currently, the pandemic. How has it affected our work and our business? So, and what do you foresee? What is your hope? Maybe you can share a bit of people, your colleague, people you work with, and things like that. So what has been affected, impacted, or whatever? So, and what is your hope? So maybe we start with Chong. So your industry, So what this pandemic? What can we do? What do we do? Yeah.
A lot of shows have been postponed or cancelled, and a lot of them they bring it online, live streaming platform, and it doesn't involve a lot of things, but they involve mostly contents. Yeah, so a lot of jobs are lost in this pandemic. Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully next year, it'll open up again. Definitely not this year. Definitely not this year. So
how we miss all this live setup.
Yeah. So at the time being, we just have to keep update to those events, our learning. Keep ourselves update to their softwares. That's all. Yeah, we can't do much. Just
keep on upgrading, self-upgrading.
Self-learning to webinars, to their webinar sections. Online courses. That's all. Yeah.
What's your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
I think, of course, I have been away from theatre for quite some years. I mean, one of the reasons also because of my health, which is my sleepless. And then that's why I ventured into more on events and stuff. But I think the things that I miss the most is, I think, traveling, especially because when we are in the theatre, right, and we always got the chance to travel here and there. Like, there are a few venues that we went, like even like that. This one, like Lin Huay, when we were in Korea and some like that.
Yeah, this is a nice venue. This Busan Cinema
very
Center
nice
is
venue.
very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Taiwan, that we can see the Taipei 101 just right behind of us, like that. Yeah, and even I think this one is Xi'an and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays it's very hard for us to
Travel.
yeah, to travel and have like
We can't
different
yeah.
to different shows in different venue. I still remember last time when I was in AMP that like maybe a week before or a few days before, then we have to prep a lot of things, and every time people ask also what's the difference between locals and overseas productions. Then for me it's like overseas production, you have to prepare a lot of things, because if you didn't prepare well here, when you go there, it's like it's very hard for even to look for a hardware shop. It's very hard to find things that we actually need.
Yeah, talking about just a quick one. I remember I just shared. Remember in Taiwan, our set couldn't arrive in time.
Yeah.
Indonesia.
Indonesia and Taiwan also.
Indonesia and Taiwan. Taiwan,
Yeah,
I think it's the
Ah.
typhoon, right? The Hong Kong.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
trailer can't reach on time. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Jakarta one is with Chong. So I remember Chong was there. I mean, he literally wasted 2 days. Cannot do nothing. Yeah, our container just cannot come out from the custom. So you see, you have to prepare you have to be prepared. I mean, the whole team have to be so strong and have to be prepared for anything. So that's why, like I say, as a producer director, I feel very lucky to always have people like you guys who is so, dedicated and so skillful and so resourceful also, I think. So, okay, Melissa, I mean, yeah, you have so many theater friends. I'm sure everyone was, is affected in some way.
Yeah. I think, just like the rest, I mean, it's a time for upgrading yourself, upskilling, upskilling, I would say, not reskilling yet. But also, I think it's also to look at what you can do and know how to do, and how that could spread across the board in other areas, of the arts. Sometimes we are maybe a little too confined to just saying, okay, we just do theater, right? This is what we do. But you have skills that you can use across the board in many other areas. So I would say this is a good time to think about that. Also, I hope, of course, coming out of this situation and all that, when we look at, let's say national budgets, for things, right, funding and things like that, I've always hoped that we will, be able to get some kind of support for technical and production training. Because as we know, like a lot of these trainings, they are usually available abroad, and not many people can afford. And I think, if we are going to go even into something like, merging digital and, conventional theater as an option, I mean, I'm not saying that it will replace, that it will replace conventional theater, but as we develop, we also need our people to grow and develop as well. So I mean, it has to work in tandem, basically. Yeah. So that's my hope, I think, and in hopes that when we restart, we'll come back stronger.
Yeah, I think digital content will never replace live performance. So this is just temporary, like we all say. But you're right that we really have to upgrade ourselves. We have to
Time to reset. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also, of course, we have to think. Then I think digital, all this live, online thing, we really have to think about it. I think nowadays maybe live theater and digital streaming, or I think people are thinking about that. Maybe you have to do it at the same time. So you have a live performance, then at the same time you stream, and actually a lot of potential as well. But of course, for us, the magic of theater is always live. It cannot be replaced. So we do, feel that it will come back definitely, very strong. But we just hope that all of us hanging there, we have to do other jobs, other things to survive, but do come back even after this. Don't like get comfortable in your current job. You're selling because
Just
you
take
make
a
a lot
top
of
break.
money. Yeah, maybe selling vegetables, selling fruits, selling a lot of things.
Durian.
Yeah, make more money. It's good, but we do hope, that's why be a part of this campaign is also try to tell people that, art is important. We must protect and we must come back. We cannot just leave it behind. So no matter what. So anyway, any last words before we say goodbye? And thank you for all those who are with us throughout this 1 hour hearing us. We are not professional speakers. I mean, myself is not. I'm not even a good moderator, but I just thought it's something nice to do, to share our stories, to share your stories. So any last thing to say before we say bye-bye?
Yeah, I think also wanted to say a big thank you to you, Ashley, for all the projects that you have initiated that we were all a part of. Yeah, I mean, otherwise we would have never met, right? Some of us.
Yeah. Chong, Doug? Anything to share with the people who are watching? Yeah.
I actually wanted to share Melissa photo, but Chong, you go ahead first.
Yeah, go ahead first. Go ahead.
Photos. Whose photos? Last one. Must be a good one. What photo you want to share? Wow, so curious.
No, this one was actually Melissa.
Oh yeah, Princess.
She wanted to be the princess.
Yeah, she wanted to be the princess. Who she actually wanted to be? She actually wanted to be Princess Wen Chen.
See, comparison. This is the actual princess.
I just got sabotage. I think
you don't got it. You don't tell me.
Wait. I was trying to do double duty, okay? I was trying to say light so people can do light.
Yes. She actually helping to do light focusing at the same time, being an SM and trying to be a Princess Wen Chen as well.
Yeah. I think Malaysian, I think really we are very lucky because my experience, 20 years, all the crew, the production, even the designers, choreographers, everybody, music director, everybody is like sharing out the workloads, like moving things. Like Melissa was saying that, we move the sets. Chong, he's in projection, but he always helped with sets, moving sets and things like that. I think that's very special. So that's why I hope,
we just have to look out for each other and help each other. One day I need their help also. One fine day I need their help also. So we just have to look out for each other. That's all.
Yeah, look out for each other. Thank you. Nice chatting. Yeah. So Melissa, stay well in Singapore. Do more productions and hope to see you back in Malaysia. Chong and Tat will see you soon because we're going to have an online performance in July. Be a part. We'll have a fundraising concert. So we look forward. We want to share with you more of the talent in Malaysia. So please stay tuned for that. And then before we leave, I want to introduce the next live session. So this coming Friday, we have these 4 beautiful dancers. They will talk about ballet because ballet in Malaysia, a lot of the children are learning ballet, right? But very seldom we'll see men or boys learning ballet. So they will talk a bit about the teaching, and then how has the pandemic affected, teaching ballet in Malaysia, and also is for guys to learn ballet. Yeah, so interesting session. So please join us on the 19th of June, Friday, 9 p.m. Okay, thank you again. So hope to catch up soon. We makan. Yeah. Thank you. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. See you again.
Bye.